As you guys know, I'm a firm believer in reducing the national debt. It's huge. It has to happen. The math does not math. It does not work. But even with that said, it's actually not as bad as you might think. Vivek Ramaswamy just came out with a video with his plan to reform welfare, specifically Social Security, and it's a really good idea. It is really, really fantastic. We're going to break down the merits of that idea, and I want to show you the video. As always, guys, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so other great patriots like yourselves will see it. Here we go. So, to give you the premise of what Vivek is talking about, he says essentially that we should allow everyone who has put things into Medicare and Social Security to get out what they've put in, and some. So he's not talking about, in this video, just to set it up, he's not talking about not getting paid for those things already. He's just saying we should stop them where they are. With that, here is him introducing his plan.
The question is just starting from a clean slate. Every person today is unaffected by what I'm going to talk about. But starting next year, the kid who's born next year, how do we ensure that that generation is going to be a generation of millionaires in the United States of America? So wealthy and so successful that they won't even need access to that federal entitlement state of yesterday. That's where we need to go. And the way to get there, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about this year, but the way to get there is by leveraging what Albert Einstein called the most powerful force in the universe. That's compound interest. I'll just walk you through a basic math exercise. Suppose a kid, when he's born, has a $10,000 investment account. And suppose it's invested in assets that compound over the long run at a rate of 15% a year. Ambitious, but not impossible to achieve, far from it. Many people who are wealthy and successful have generally achieved far more than that. Let's say you're just investing in assets for a 15% annualized rate of return. What's the math on that? That $10,000 would be the equivalent of, it would be in actuality, it would be $160,000+ at the age of 20. It would be $660,000 at the age of 30. And it would be a staggering $2.6 million plus at the age of 40. That's a generation of multimillionaires at the age of 40, just starting with a $10,000 investment account that, frankly, the initial principal could flow straight back to where it came from some point along the way. How much would that cost just to kickstart and get started? Well, you think about the number of births in the country. It's about 3.7 million births per year, $10,000 a kid. That'd be $37 billion a year. It's a lot of money, no doubt, but tiny compared to the amount we spend on just Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's $3 trillion just last year. $3 trillion versus $37 billion. If you could actually create a generation of multimillionaires where every kid born in this country were a millionaire, they would never need those federal entitlement state nanny programs on the back end. That's what we need to be talking about. And I think that's something that's going to unite Democrats and Republicans alike. It ought to be. Who doesn't want their kid to be able to be growing up to be a millionaire in the United States of America, participating in the success of economic growth?
I am a massive fan of this idea. These are the things, this is literally the kind of stuff that me and my wife talk about in our spare time because it's fascinating and it works. It works every time because the math does not change. In academia, there's an age-old debate. The question is, who should run the world? And on one side, we have the economists, and on the other side, we have the political scientists. And I tend to fall on the side of the economists every time because I think they're more grounded. They have history to back them up. Whereas I think, political science is not a science per se. Vivek, though, introduces this third group of people, which is the financial analysts, the finance people. That is how Vivek is talking. He's speaking from the point of view of someone who runs businesses. It's not really political what he's saying. You'll notice it's not really about, oh, could this get done? Oh, here's how we would get it done practically in a political realm. That's not what he's talking about. He is strictly coming from a compound interest, time value money, math standpoint. That's what he's saying. That's the approach that Vivek is taking. When it comes to how our country is run, it really should be run by the finance people, in my opinion, because this plan absolutely works. The maths. I think it would spell untold wealth for Americans like Vivek talks about. The only part, and I have to say this up front before we get into some of the numbers that are really fascinating, the only part of Vivek's plan that doesn't work, and I know people are going to comment this, is the rate of return that he assumes. He assumes a 15% rate of return. No way. It's not going to happen. However, it's still going to be high. It's not going to be 15%. If we're looking at retirement plans, which is what Social Security is all about, we can assume about 50 years, 40 to 50 years, which is a long-term investment, which means we can assume a higher return. And if you look at the S&P historically over the last 50 years, it gets about 11.5%. So for all the math that I'm going to show you, again, which is fascinating, I'm going to assume 11.5% because that's what the S&P has done. It's not 15%. If it was 15%, it'd be much, much higher. That makes a big difference over 15 years. I did the math on this. If you take $10,000 and you give it an annualized return of 11.5% over 65 years, because again, this is a plan to give $10,000 when someone is born. So assuming you retire 65 years, if you do that, you get $11.8 million. $11.8 million. Now, I know what you're saying. There's people out there who are going to say this. What about the inflation, Josh? That's absolutely true. So the average inflation, if you look at it since 1950, has been 3.6%. So that means if you take the 11.5% return and subtract 3.6% from it, you get an actual return of 7.9%. 7.9% over 65 years. That leads to $1.4 million per person of today's money. Today's money again. So inflation is out of it now. You get $1.4 million at the age of 65. In other words, and by the way, that means you're not getting Social Security taken out of your paycheck every single time you get a paycheck. So not only are you getting $1.4 million when you turn 65, but your income is going to be much, much higher. Then I kept looking into it more. Every American is going to be a millionaire because of this. If you then started withdrawing it every year because you retire and you want to withdraw, you could withdraw exactly $10,000 a month for 35 years without running out. $10,000 a month, guys. That is insane. Just to get some perspective on it, the average person gets $1,800 a month from Social Security right now. $1,800 a month. So the system that Vivek is talking about and what I'm talking about is more than 5 times better for Americans, and it would not bankrupt our country. In this scenario, this does not bankrupt our country. Social Security is 5 times less effective for Americans, and it's also bankrupting our country. So it's $37 billion a year, like Vivek said. That is how much this program would cost. Or you could also pay back, say, $20,000 back to the government to make the program essentially free. So in the long run, it could be a completely free program, and every single American gets to take out $10,000 a month when they turn 65, and they get that until they're 100 years old. By the way, that doesn't even include the huge pro of what this would do in terms of stimulation to our economy. So if you look into it, again, this would mean billions of dollars more invested into American companies, which of course is going to lead to better research, development, jobs. So you're going to see unemployment absolutely just crater because there's going to be a lot more money in these markets to create jobs. I'm going to predict it right now. This is my big prediction for this. This is what's going to happen to Social Security. This is absolutely what's going to happen. We will privatize it, or we'll turn it into some impoverished third world country like when Argentina's currency just became completely devalued. That is the decision that we have. We will privatize Social Security. I think it will look something like this, or we will become a third world hellhole because we need the American dollar to be strong. We cannot default on our debt or inflate it into oblivion, which is most likely what would happen if our debt got even more out of control. It is the only way. At some point, the national debt will hurt too bad. And I think the ideas that Vivek is talking about in that video are going to get more out there, and people are going to like it more, and Americans will support it and understand it. And then in turn, the politicians will then support it because they'll have to, or they'll get voted out. By the way, this is a big deal. You could lump Medicaid into it as well. This isn't just about Social Security. If you lumped Medicaid into it and made a portion of the money paid into it some sort of health savings account, you could basically reform Medicaid and Medicare as well, completely. All you'd have to do is just have a portion of this fund. Again, we could take 8/10 of it and call it Social Security, and then take 2/10 of it and make it some sort of healthcare welfare. But either way, it's not going to bankrupt our country like today. Between Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, we're spending $3 trillion every single year. Every year. Not $37 billion like we're talking about in this. $3 trillion, which is 45% of the budget, or 60% of all of the revenue that the United States takes in every year. We make $5 trillion a year and $3 trillion go to these 3 programs. It does not make sense. If we adopted this plan, that number would go from $3 trillion to like $40 billion. And by the way, it'd be $40 billion for a few decades, and then it would go to zero because people would start paying back that $10,000 initial investment that the government makes in each born baby. It's a no-brainer. Call your congressman, guys. Call your mom. Tell them about it. And maybe elect Vivek Ramaswamy to be president in 2032. For you business owners out there, you know how hard it is to find high quality talent that also fits in your budget. And that is why I partnered with Leverage Assistant. Leverage Assistant hooks you up with data analysts, marketing specialists, accountants, sales assistants, you name it, working in the same time zones as your company, but only for $3,000 a month. The average company right now with Leverage Assistant is saving over $20,000 a year in labor costs. They're not a recruiter or a marketplace. Leverage Assistant is a high-touch resourcing solution where every assistant is vetted through over 12 hours of interviews, skill tests, reference checks, and behavioral assessments to ensure that the right cultural and operational fit for your business. Right now, they're incredibly generous with my viewers. They're giving 1 month free to you so you can see how high quality their talent is without any risk to you or your business. To see what they're all about and all of those positions that they offer and to get 1 month free, head to the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Everybody, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so other great patriots like yourself will see it. And you can tune in every single weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show, or you can check out another video right here.